You're listening to Tuesday Mornings Around Orkney. The time now just coming up to 5 minutes to 8. Lin Anderson's creation, the forensic scientist Rona McLeod, is back in the 16th book of the series called The Killing Tide. After previous stories set at the Ring of Brodgar and in Sandy, she's in Orkney again, investigating a mysterious ghost ship washed ashore near Yesnaby with 3 bodies on board and signs that a sinister game has been played out to the death. Lin has been telling Hugh more about it.
I had read an article in the Irish Times about a ship that had come ashore near Cork, south of Cork. And I had never heard of these ghost ships before. Of course, the article intrigued me, and I just thought, where would I bring such a ship ashore? And Yesnaby seemed to be the perfect place.
And it's, of course, not your first time setting a story, setting a novel in Orkney, is it? You've been in Sandy and you were at the Ring of Brodgar in the past.
Yes, I have. I mean, one of the characters, the psychologist, the criminal psychologist, is from Orkney, and Magnus. And although he works at Strathclyde University, he actually lives in Orkney in a house. Friends of ours, when I lived there, lived down at Houghton Bay. And in actual fact, the policeman, Erling, lives in the house I used to live in after I left the farm, Langwell, up in Orford Hill there. So it's very much the places I knew and had been to lots of times.
Well, I wanted to ask you about that because you get the impression that some writers set their stories in Orkney because they want it to have, for readers in mainland Scotland, mainland UK, they want it to have remoteness or whatever it might be. Yeah. But for you, I get the impression it's just a place that you know and love. So why wouldn't you set at least some of your stories here?
Yes, you're absolutely right. I mean, the farm I stayed on, my husband and I stayed on Orkney-set for the Pirries, Vina and Geordie. That was actually our first home in Orkney. They gave us our first home in Orkney, and he was a great storyteller. And I wasn't a writer back then. I mean, I taught at Kirkwall Grammar School. I taught maths there, and went on to teach computing for a long time before I stopped to write full time. But I had never been to Orkney when we moved there. My husband was a civil engineer, and he went to build houses out at Craigiefield. Of course, one job finished, he moved to the next one. So my family lived in the Highlands, and he moved to build the A9. And then we went and worked in Africa and came back again. So we sort of lived in lots of different parts of Scotland. And that's the joy of having a character who is a forensic scientist, because they can go anywhere.
The other strong central female character in this book is the Orcadian-born investigative journalist Ava Clouston, and I guess there'll be people at the Orcadian wondering, oh, is that based on me?
No, it's not based on anyone. It's an interesting. She just sort of marched in, if you know what I mean. And I had this idea of, she loved the place, but she had a totally different type of job, which took her around the world, and she loved it. But then she's faced with this personal dilemma because her parents die in a car crash, and she's got a teenage brother, and he's not old enough to deal with the farm. And in a way, it sort of comes from, although my home is in Carbridge, I've lived in Edinburgh for a long time. I, come up and down. It's this place that your home, you always want it to be there so that you can always come back to it. And that is her dilemma. She doesn't want to lose the farm, but how does she do that and do the job she loves? And then, of course, the ghost ship arrives at Yesnaby, and it sort of changes everything because she gets really involved in doing the investigation behind who on earth is responsible for what happened on that ship.
Lin Anderson and The Killing Tide is published by Macmillan. It's a hardback and it'll cost you £16.99. A reminder of this morning's headlines. The Scottish Government wants to hear views on its idea of an islands bond, and it's been confirmed that Orkney is one of 9 areas to have expressed interest in Greenport status.